In this video, I will show you the best way to do boot Arch Linux with Windows 11 using the all-new ArchInstall script. This method makes it very easy to install Arch Linux alongside Windows 11 on the same drive, and it's one of the safest ways to set up a do boot on any computer without risking data loss. However, it's strongly recommended to back up important files to the cloud or external media. Also, at the end of this video, I will show you how to safely remove Arch Linux from the do boot. Be sure to watch the video until the end to avoid any confusion. Now check the description for more information, timestamps, and download links. The prerequisites of this video: you need Windows 11 or Windows 10 installed on your PC or laptop, an 8 gigs or higher USB drive to create a bootable disk with Arch Linux, at least 50 GB of free space reserved from your existing drive. Now let's proceed with creating a free space for Arch Linux. Right-click on the desktop and open Terminal. Type disk mgmt to access the disk manager, which displays all connected drives and their partitions. In my case, you can see that one drive is connected. The drive 0 has 3 partitions. The first one is the UEFI partition where the Windows bootloader is present. The second one is the main Windows, and the last one is the recovery partition. I'm going to choose the C drive to shrink the free space for Arch Linux. In your case, it might be D, E, or F, whatever. Just choose any partition and right-click on it. Now choose Shrink Volume and allocate a minimum of 40 GB or more for Arch Linux. You can type the value in megabytes. In my case, I'm going to allocate 200,000 megabytes. Then click on Shrink. This will create unallocated free space, and that's it. We have done creating a free space for Arch Linux. Now open your web browser and visit the official website of Arch. Scroll down and choose the closest mirror to your location and download the Arch ISO file. Next, download Rufus from its official website. Once both files are downloaded, save them somewhere on your computer for easy navigation. Before installing Arch Linux, it's recommended to create a system restore point on your Windows computer. Now go ahead and search for Create Restore Point in the Start menu and open it. This tool allows to take a snapshot of the current system state. If something goes wrong with the Arch installation, you can use this backup to restore your system to normal. If you're using Windows 11 Professional, disable BitLocker encryption before proceeding. BitLocker can interfere with Linux installations. Since Linux doesn't support BitLocker encrypted drives, for Windows 11 home users, this feature is permanently disabled by default, so you can skip this step. Then connect your USB drive to your computer. Now go ahead and open Rufus. Select the USB drive and import the Arch Linux ISO file. I'm going to choose the partition scheme as GPT, as this laptop uses UEFI BIOS mode with the GPT partition scheme. Now follow the prompts and accept to start creating a bootable USB with Arch. Now this will take some time depending on the writing speed of your USB drive. Now once it's done, it's time to boot the system into BIOS. You can turn off the PC and boot into BIOS settings using the keyboard shortcut based on your motherboard. Now, mostly it could be F2, F9 or the escape key. If you don't know how to boot into BIOS, I'm going to show you how to do it from Windows. Just click on the Windows Start menu, hold the Shift key and click on Restart. Then your computer will enter into Windows Options menu. Now click on Troubleshooting and Advanced Options and select UEFI Firmware Settings. Then click on Restart to boot into BIOS. In my case, my computer has booted into the startup menu and I'm gonna press F10 to access the BIOS setup. In the UEFI BIOS, enable USB boot and change the boot order by setting the USB drive as primary. Then disable secure boot, which is very important. Once it's done, save the changes. Now your system will boot into Arch from the USB drive. If it fails to boot, use the boot menu to load ArchInstall media. Now on your monitor, you will see a terminal expecting for input. Now please note that the mouse functionality is disabled and you have to rely on the keyboard. Then type this command to increase the size of the console. Press Enter to execute the command. Before installing Arch Linux, if your computer is connected to the internet via Ethernet, use the ping command to check the connection. If you're using built-in Wi-Fi support, use the iWCTL to connect to the internet. Simply type iWCTL in the terminal to enter the shell mode. Then type device list to see the list of available network interfaces. Then look for WLAN 0 and ensure it's turned on. If it's off, enable it by typing this command. Then type station WLAN 0 get-networks to see the list of Wi-Fi networks. Next, run the command station WLAN 0 connect and enter the name of your Wi-Fi network. Then go ahead and press the return key and input the Wi-Fi password. After entering the password, wait for 5 seconds and press enter to connect to the internet. You might not see any output if the connection was successful. Then you can exit the IWD mode, and that's it, you have successfully connected to the internet. Now run the ping command to ensure you are receiving the packets. To demonstrate this video easily, I have remotely logged into the Arch Linux via SSH. Now type this command to synchronize the package databases. Then install the Arch Linux keyring and ArchInstall packages by executing these commands one after the other. Now type lsblk to list out all drives connected to the PC. In this case, you can see the 2 drives. Forget about the loops. Just concentrate on the SDA or NVMe. The NVMe 0N1 is the main drive where Windows 11 has been installed, and the SDA is the bootable USB. Now it's time to create partitions for Arch Linux using the free space we created earlier. Type cfdisk/dev/NVMe 0N1 and press enter. Here you can see the EFI and Windows partitions. Now keep in mind that you need to use the arrow keys for selection and the enter key for confirmation. Now scroll to the free space. For Arch, we need to create 2 main partitions, EFI and root. Now select the free space and press enter to create a first partition with a size of 1 gig and press the enter key to create it. Now select the new partition using the arrow keys and select Type and choose UEFI System. Then select the free space again and create a root partition of 20 GB or higher. In my case, I'm gonna use the remaining free space and press the Enter key to create it. The type is going to be a Linux file system and the CF disk will pick it automatically. And that's it, we have done creating the partitions for Arch. Just remember these two disk identifier, then write the changes to alter the disk. Once it's done, exit from the CF disk. Now, if you type lsblk, you can see all the newly created partitions. The NVMe 0N1 P5 for UEFI and P6 for root. We need to format these partitions one by one. First, format the Arch UEFI partition, which in my case is NVMe 0N1 P5 by typing this command. Then format the root partition, which in my case is NVMe 0N1 by typing this command. Now let's go ahead and mount the partitions. First, we need to mount the root partition, which in my case is NVMe 0N1 P6 to the MNT. Then create a directory inside the MNT and name it as boot. Now mount the UEFI partition to this directory. Now make sure all the partitions are mounted properly. You can verify it by typing this command. Now it's time to install the Arch Linux to the root partition, which is mounted to /MNT. So let's invoke the ArchInstall script to automate everything for us. Now use the arrow keys to navigate through the options and the Enter key for selection. Then set the system language by selecting your option. Then choose your locale. In my case, I'm gonna leave the first three options at their default values. Then choose disk configuration. Since we have mounted the UEFI and root partitions for Arch Linux, select pre-mounted configuration and type the root directory as /MNT. Now this is where we have mounted the root partition of Arch. Then press Enter to confirm and go back to the main interface. Additionally, if you want to secure your installation with encryption, you can set encryption password and make sure swap is enabled. Next, select the bootloader. You have 4 options to choose from. Use either systemd or the Grub bootloader. I'm going to choose Grub, which works better with dual boot. Then set the hostname as Arch Linux. Then set the password for the root user. Then create a new user account. And add this user to the sudoers list for elevated privileges. Now scroll down and choose to confirm and exit. It's time to install the desktop environment. Select profile type and choose desktop. The ArchInstall script offers a plethora of options to choose from. For this demonstration, I will choose the GNOME desktop environment. Next, select the graphic drivers that you want to install. If you have Intel iGPU, choose Intel Open Source and choose AMD if you have AMD GPU. If you have the latest discrete NVIDIA RTX graphic card, choose proprietary drivers. Otherwise, use the default Navu driver. Then select the audio option and choose the audio server. For best results on most computers, it's recommended to use Pipewire. If you wish, you can also install additional kernels, but for now, I will stick with the default or the latest available kernel. Now after that, select the network configuration and choose to use the network manager. Under the additional packages option, you can specify a list of tools to be installed separated by spaces. You can also use optional repositories like multilib to enable support for 32-bit applications. For example, if you want to install Steam to play Windows games, you need to enable multilib, but for now, I leave it unchecked. Then select your time zone to set the correct time on your system. Now go ahead and check all the options and haven't left anything blank. Once you have confirmed all these options, select the install and wait for a few minutes for Arch script to perform its magic. Now once it's done, you will see the prompt to perform the post-installation steps. Select yes to enter the chroot environment and start customizing your new Arch Linux installation. If I type lsblk, you can see the boot and root partitions. It's time to install the Grub bootloader, which is going to help boot Arch Linux. For some reason, ArchInstall Script may not install Grub properly, and we need to manually install the Grub bootloader. Now type this command to install these packages. Type lsblk. We are going to install Grub into the boot partition. Now type the command exactly as it's shown. Now generate a Grub configuration file by typing this command. And that's it, the Grub bootloader has been installed. It's time to install some GUI applications like Firefox, VLC, LibreOffice, and most essential packages. And lastly, let's install Flatpak. This will fix the Discover backend on Plasma desktop environment. Now exit from the chroot environment. Once it's done, shut down the system by typing this command. And eject the PENDRIVE. And that's it, we have successfully installed Arch Linux and dual booted with Windows 11. Now turn on your computer and you can see the Grub menu. From here, you can boot into only Arch for now, and Windows 11 is not showing. We are going to fix that issue in a moment. For now, let's boot into Arch. You can choose X11 or Valent session from the login manager. It's time to add the Windows boot entry to Grub menu. Simply edit the Grub configuration file with this command and change the default Grub timeout for 30 seconds. Then scroll to the bottom and uncomment this line. If you don't set the OS prober value to false, then Grub cannot look for the Windows bootloader and won't add it to the Grub menu. Once it's done, save the changes by pressing Ctrl+O and exit with Ctrl+X. Then inside the terminal, type this command to install OS prober. Now run this command to update Grub, and you can see it found the Windows boot manager. Then reboot your system. Now you can use the Grub menu to boot into Arch or Windows 11. If in case you don't like Arch Linux and decided to uninstall, then reboot your computer into Windows 11. Once you're inside Windows 11, open the search bar and type diskmgmt and open Disk Management Utility. Here, in my case, next to the C drive, 2 new partitions are showing. We need to delete each partition one after the other. Now, as you can see, I have deleted the root partition and there is no option to delete the boot UEFI partition. Now for that, we're going to take command prompt help to remove this partition. To do so, go ahead and open command prompt and run as administrator. Inside the CMD, type disk part, then type list disk. This will show all the drives connected to my PC. Now, as you can see, drive 0 is the only drive connected to my computer where Windows is present. I'm going to go ahead and select this drive by typing this command. Now, I'm going to type list partition to view all partitions of this drive. If you notice carefully, partition 5 is the Arch UEFI partition, which we failed to delete from the disk manager, which is this one. Now, as you can see, it's around 1000 megabytes. We're going to go ahead and delete this partition. To do so, type this command to select this partition. Now make sure you have selected the proper partition. Then type this command. Now, as you can see, under the disk manager, it's now deleted and we gain back the free space. You can use this free space and merge it back to Windows 11. And that's it. We have successfully removed Arch Linux. Now restart your computer. It should boot your system into Windows 11 directly and you won't face any Grub issues. This is how you properly set up a dual boot on your Windows computer with Arch Linux using ArchInstall Script. As a bonus part of the video, you can restore your USB pen drive to its normal usage. Once formatted, you can use it to store pictures, videos, and other files. To do so, on Windows, download and install a software named SD Formatter. After installation, connect your USB drive to the computer. Launch the software and follow the on-screen instructions to format your drive. And that's pretty much it. If you have any questions or queries, do post them in the comments section down below. Thank you so much for watching. This has been KS Kirayo. I will see you in the next one.